I'm embarrassed to admit that I had never heard of Chevalier until one fateful morning. I opened up my inbox on my laptop, and sitting there was this amazing script written by Stephanie Robinson that had been sent to me by Searchlight Pictures. And, 3 pages in, I was hooked. And by the time I finished the script, I was astonished that I had never heard of this incredibly accomplished man.
His life was just truly extraordinary. Like, it felt like a tall tale or like a myth. This black man was born on a plantation in the French colonies and then went to Paris and became a star athlete, fencer, champion, and then pivoted completely into music and was a star composer and violinist and was friends with Marie Antoinette and lived in Versailles and was an amazing horseback rider and knew lots of languages. So it was just like, this guy had so many stellar, astounding credits.
I loved, obviously, who Joseph was, but I also love how she found her into portraying him and honestly telling that part of the story in French society and the Marie Antoinette of it all. And I just couldn't have imagined it.
I couldn't believe that I hadn't heard of this story before, and the female characters were just so impactful, powerful. Then I met Stephen, and we talked about what life was like back then and his vision for it. I just really wanted to be a part of it.
A lot of Joseph's music has been destroyed or lost to time. There was nothing just in terms of firsthand accounts of his own life. So no diary entries, no letters, nothing that really sort of got into the psyche of what he was feeling.
Ironically, the French have an expression, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose, which means the more things change, the more they say this. And that was just apparent at every turn. It just felt like, I recognize that. That's familiar. If you squinted and you minus the wigs and the costumes, this could be happening right now.
I think it's nice to recognize how little things have changed and then the wins that we have had over time. I think one of the things I like to focus on is the beauty of the fact that Joseph does get a moment right now. And that is a sign of hope. That's a sign of progression in some ways. The political conversation is a tricky one. You know what I mean? Like, racism is racism. I don't even know how much more to say about it. But yeah, it's exciting to be able to reintroduce it into the chat, allow us to recognize that we are held accountable in erasing this man's legacy and re-inspiring those that have felt like they weren't represented, that they have always been here. So it checks a lot of boxes. Yeah.
We do a very good job as humans is not remembering our past and sort of, I think, locking it up where it belongs. Like, well, that was back then. That has no bearing on what's happening today. And the interesting thing about writing this movie was that it was immediately apparent to me as I was doing the research that I didn't have to really do anything more to make the story feel contemporary. It was already in the story. I think it's important to be honest about the human experience and how we experience each other and ourselves, and that we're not totally at a point yet where we've fully righted the wrongs of the human experiences in the past or even the wrongs of the human experience right now.
We've been fighting for the autonomy over our bodies since then, and we're still having to fight that fight, which is mental to me. So that's really depressing that that's still super relevant.
Human beings are incredible. Every single one of them, everything that we do, I think is fascinating, good for good or bad, because there's something always going on in there. At the end of the day, either someone hasn't been loved, is trying to love, or is rejecting love. That's all is coming down at its core. And I think if you can recognize a person, then I did my part. And I feel comfortable with how they receive Joseph's legacy. And I think Joseph will be proud if you feel a sense of a person and not just like this idea. He's like, I'm more than an idea. That's what he fought against. I'm more than just a fiddle player.